Hello, I'm Peter Orker of Peter Orker Piano Tuition, and it's Tuesday, so it's time for a Tuesday tip for better piano playing. And today I'm going to be talking about the pedals on the piano. Now, all pianos, acoustic pianos, have at least two pedals, and we'll just have a quick look and see what each of those pedals does. But some pianos, like my piano here, actually has three pedals, so we're going to include that in our count as well. So let's have a little look. As you can see, the piano has three pedals. The one on the left is called una corda. The one in the middle is called sostenuto, and the one on the right is called the sustain pedal. And they each have a different function. The middle pedal is not to be found on every piano by any means. Not all grand pianos have them, and certainly not all upright pianos have them. In fact, my old piano that I had for 43 years didn't have a sostenuto pedal in the middle. If there is a third pedal on an upright piano, it tends not to be a sostenuto. In fact, it tends to be a type of pedal called a mute, which reduces the volume of the sound by about 75%, and by putting a massive piece of felt over the strings, and allows you to practice very, very quietly without disturbing your neighbours. Okay, let's look at what happens when you press each pedal in turn, starting with the left hand pedal, the una corda. When you press this one, the entire piano keyboard shifts a very small amount to the right. See that? And what's happening inside, if you can see, is that the hammers, we can just see underneath the dampers there, all move a little bit to the right. And this means that in the area of the piano where there are three strings, you get fewer strings that are hammered by or played by the hammers. When you use the middle pedal, the sostenuto, let's see what happens. Well, you can't actually see what happens, but I can illustrate what it sounds like. Suppose you want to play a chord and have that chord sustain, and then you want to play some staccato notes above it. You need the sostenuto to achieve that. So you can play your notes, press down the sostenuto, and then play the staccato notes above them. And finally, the pedal that we use the most is the sustain pedal, the one on the right. When you press that one down, if we look at what's happening inside the piano, you should be able to see, when we look at what's happening inside the piano, you'll see the dampers go up when I push the sustain pedal down. And that means you can change from staccato playing, put this pedal down, and the notes ring on. Well, actually, it's really the right hand pedal, the sustain pedal, that we tend to use most often, and therefore that's the one I'd like to focus on in today's session. And a good piece of music to use as an example is Chopin's E minor prelude, which has a melody line which is actually very, very simple. In fact, not a lot goes on. just quite a repetitive melody line, and so on. But it's what happens underneath that melody line that gives the music its power. It's a series of repeating chords. And so on. Well, that all sounds rather dry and not very interesting to listen to when played like that, and it's the pedal, the sustain pedal, that can bring this music to life. And through this I can highlight the two main traps that people fall into when they are using the sustain pedal. The first trap, and I have to say this is probably the most common, is to over pedal. I've heard, when I've been out examining, I've heard lots and lots of people essentially just put the pedal down and then it's sort of set and forget. They put the pedal down and just play the music. Now if you do that with this piece, you get a lot of very unpleasantly clashing and blurred harmonies. Have a listen. You can hear all those changes of chords that kind of merge into one another, creating a very unpleasant sort of mess of sound. The other trap people sometimes fall into is they look at the pedal markings on the music, and there are two types of pedal markings. One has a sort of very curly P, which stands for pedal, of course, which indicates where you should put the pedal down, and then an asterisk a bit later on in the music which indicates let the pedal come back up again. That's one sign. And another sign you can sometimes see in music is you get the abbreviation PED, P-E-D, with a dot, and then you get a line underneath the music, and every time you have to lift the pedal and put it back down again, there's a little bump in the line, or a little arrow in the, that's not really an arrow, a little up down thing in the line. So the second trap is to follow those indications absolutely slavishly, without any regard really for the sound that you're making. You just think, oh yeah, I have to put the pedal down there because it says. So you then sometimes still end up with some blurred harmonies, or sometimes it just doesn't create the smooth sound that we're really aiming for. Let me see if I can show you what I mean. So this is like just following the pedal markings completely to the letter, as it were. It's not nice, is it? Every time you do that pedalling, I was exaggerating to be fair, but it shows the principle. Every time you do that sort of dogmatic kind of pedalling, there's this tendency to get a kind of break in the phrasing at that point, and it just sounds lumpy, for want of a better word. I think it was Paderewski who first used the expression when asked about pedalling, pedal with your ears. Now of course it doesn't literally mean pedal with your ears. That would be very uncomfortable and also pretty much impossible unless you were some kind of miraculous contortionist. No, of course, what he meant by that is almost forget the pedal markings, but use your ears, listen, listen, listen all the time, very, very carefully to the sound you're making. And when you hear the tiniest hint of a blurred harmony, just lift the pedal and then put it straight back down again. It's almost like pedaling along with your with your fingers pushing down. It's almost as if your foot is sort of connected organically to your fingers. It's not a separate thing. And I think that's what a lot of people do. They regard the foot as, it's down there, down there at the bottom of their leg, and it's not really connected to with what their fingers are doing. And so you don't get a connection in the music either. So I'm going to play this E minor prelude now, and I'm going to hopefully pedal with my ears, which should create, I'm hoping, a nice expressive sound, which is more resonant and has more tone than if I just played it dry with no pedalling at all, and yet doesn't fall into that trap of too much pedal or pedalling that isn't really connected to the sound. Let's see if I can do this. So, the two traps to avoid, just to recap: just putting the pedal down and leaving it there and then playing all the way through, or slavishly following the pedal markings in the score, important though they are as a guide, but not thinking about the connection between the effect the pedal is having on the sound and the actual sound that's coming out of the piano. It takes some practice, and there's obviously a bit of a knack to it. There are such things as half pedalling, quarter pedalling as well, which I'm not going to go into today, but there we go, that's got you started. Hope you enjoyed today's Tuesday tip, and I look forward to seeing you at the next one. Take care. Bye for now.